Guys, let me see.
Is there anyone that will help us take some photos when we are talking? I would need it to. Is it possible?
Do you want photos taken?
Yeah, I will need photos taken. Yeah.
I will do that, no problem. I'll do some screen grabs. Okay, let me get started and we are live. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Sudha Jamthe. I'm hosting Weekly Wed today. I'm excited about it because usually this is done by one of my students. And we are running a little late because we had two different Zoom sessions. So if you're one of those people watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, welcome. You can chat your questions on LinkedIn and I will try and bring this to our speaker here also. And for the regulars who are used to getting the Zoom link, we restricted the Zoom link to a select set of people because we're going to have a fun discussion with an amazing speaker. And I think that caused a little chaos. So apologies about that. So I'm a technology futurist. I'm here in Silicon Valley, and I'm excited to welcome our special speaker, Dr. Blessing. And Dr. Blessing, and I want to make sure that I pronounce his last name right, Blessing Ogbuokiri. It's at Ogbuokiri? Yes, thank you.
Yes, Ogbuokiri. Yeah, you did well. You did well.
Ogbuokiri. And he is a research fellow at York University. He's joining us from Toronto. Thank you so much, Blessing, for finding the time to talk to us today. I want to take a few minutes just to get to understand your background, because I know you when you presented a poster at Global South in AI at NeurIPS last year, and then I followed your research work and you're part of several other organizations. So I want to get to know, or at least share your background here with our folks here. And before I continue, I forgot there's a disclaimer. Because we are streaming this live, this will be recorded and it will sit forever in the internet, and maybe it will go off to train a bunch of AI in the future. So I want you to be aware of that. And so for those of you who are here on the Zoom, if you don't want to be on video, go off camera. And if you don't want your voice also recorded, you can chat your questions and we'll take care of that. And for those of you on LinkedIn, I already said that, I'll field your questions. And if you're coming and seeing this recording, we will come. Our recordings usually have a live because this gets embedded and sent in my newsletter and stuff. So you can always come and post questions on the LinkedIn because we will field that for a few days. Okay. So Blessing, this year you are a co-chair for affinity workshops at NeurIPS. And I believe you're also part of Black in AI and Global South in AI. And one more organization you were telling me yesterday, right? The Africa Canada Artificial Intelligence and Innovation Center.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit. What's your origin story? Like you're like a superhero doing so many things.
All right. Thank you very much, Sudha. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here. And thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Blessing Ogbuokiri. Thank you for pronouncing it well. You really tried. I'm originally from Nigeria. I did my studies there. My background is computer science, and I did my PhD in the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa. Actually, that is where I actually unboxed myself. And from there, I came to Canada, Toronto to be precise, where I am working at York University under the supervision of Professor Jude Kong in the African Canada Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Consortium. So I have been working there since 2021, and it's quite interesting, coming from the diverse, places. I have been in Africa and I'm here in North America to, work, teach, and learn at the same time. I've also involved in, just like you rightly said, in the Black in AI community, where we, try to use, bring out the salient development from our local communities, Black people who are not really when they don't publicize their work. So we actually formed that group was formed, and I'm part of the group, and I'm also part of the organizing committee for the group in Newridge workshop. Recently, I'm in the Newridge conference affinity chair. It's quite interesting thing we're doing there also to give room for the affinity groups to identify themselves. And talking about what I do, I've been working in several a lot of things. In our team, we have a team in South Africa. We have also our team in Canada here. So we work in hand. We do a lot of things, especially when it comes to informing policy with AI. We try to use unconventional data to inform policy, especially in the local communities and in global South at large. So basically, and our team also have an offshoot called AI for PEP. That is the one that actually also covers both the global South, including the Asian side, then talking about the Middle East and the Caribbean as well. So we have our hubs in those areas. But some of my works are tailored down in there are 9 African countries that academic, which is the one that I'm going to talk about today and focus on. So that's most of the things that we're doing. And it will be interesting for you to also hear those works when I present them, and you bring your input. And I'm sure it definitely will motivate some other young researchers too.
That's amazing. I mean, one of the things we strive to do here is to uh, truly be global. We are a global speaker series, and our community is truly global. That's why I'm very big on right pronunciations, because by pronouncing a person's name right, we connect with them, and we might miss out on the opportunity. You might have an amazing opportunity. If I don't, know the spelling of your name, and I don't care to go and find that, then I'm going to miss out on that. And as you were talking, we are going to talk about a very exciting topic, and you have the superpower of finding data from very unconventional places. Before we get to that, one of the things that fascinates me is you said you work with 9 African countries, but let us set context here, because we have people from everywhere, and I come from India originally, and we have 22 official languages, and there are hundreds of other languages. And I did some research on Nigerian languages, because I had a student at Stanford who introduced me to Hausa. And at that time, there was no zero-shot learning, and this was a couple years back. And Hausa was not included in Google Translate. She wanted to build out some NLP around that, and that kind of got me thinking about diversity and inclusion in language AI. And so you are from Nigeria, and you studied in South Africa. Within that, there are hundreds of languages. So help us understand what are the official languages of Nigeria, and how many other languages are there? Let's start with Nigeria first.
Okay, so thank you very much. There are a lot of languages in Nigeria, but we have 3 major official ones, which is the Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. And as we have over 250 ethnic groups, there are close to 500 languages that people speak, much more, and different dialects as well. Officially, we have 3 major ones that, okay, if you come to Nigeria, they can either classify you as Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, and that also comes with its own different language as well. So, which is a little bit different from South Africa, where I studied. I don't know if I should go into that. In
Yes,
South
tell us
Africa,
about South African languages.
yes, in South Africa, there are over, I think, 11 official languages. 11 official languages, and all the groups. I don't know if I can mention them now, but at least the major ones I can remember. We have the Zulu, Isizulu, we have the Tswana, we have the Pedi, we have Xhosa, we have Indebele, we have Afrikaans, and all that. About 11 of them, and they are all recognized in the country. And recently, I see that a lot of researchers are also working towards building language models with these different languages. I've seen quite some works that some researchers have done in that area.
So last year at Global South in AI, we had one of our peer review judges, Chris, who came from Lanfrica, and I'm part of the Masakane Slack group. So if you're interested in understanding the vibrancy of language AI and all the different models and data sets that's being contributed from several countries and researchers who are working with Africa, Masakane is like a great place. I don't have an affiliation, I'm just a fan. So one of the things we, Susanna is here, I see. One of the things we focus on Global South in AI is to make sure that we bring inclusion to language AI. And that too, we want people to come with their culture. So it's, we look at data, language as data today, and word embeddings and the like. But with our whole generative AI, the whole belief is that the AI is chatting with us, and is it chatting with us respectfully, aware of the cultures of the different languages it represents. It's still thinking of it as data, but it's doing a pretty decent job engaging us and creating the next wave. So I want to go back to your work now, and let me make sure that I give you host access so you can share the screen. Here you are.
Just a quick one. I remember one of our team members in South Africa, talking about the academic group, we actually built also a language model, sort of, that we try to use South African, just a Twitter data set. But, when people tweet, they can actually tweet with their language, or maybe start with English and end it up with, vernacular or stuff like that. So the tweets were hand labeled, all of them.
Yeah.
We did that. We were able to create a model that could actually recognize such kind of nuances in tweeting, and it was able to classify those tweets into their sentiment classes. And our team members did that. We did it in South Africa. One of our team members led it. So I just wanted to point that out as well, so that those who want to also, go into this kind of research, I mean, it's quite interesting to see how we can actually consider this kind of approach.
So one of your specialty is that you find data from very unconventional sources. We talked about tweets, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember last week, I mean, there's tons of resources. We've had Pariya Sarin show us a startup which was creating a better data set for Ethiopian languages, which is doing better than Google Translate. So I'm happy to share those later, but I want to get to this unconventional data and sentiment analysis that you do using tweets. I mean, I have worked in eBay in my past, where I used to head mobile analytics, and I have a patent on sentiment analysis of tweets to understand buyer behavior to build a learning system. And so it's very fascinating for me to see, all of us looking at tweets and this world of information, and we come at it from our lens. So what got you started to even go to look at tweets and Reddit and other sources? What got you started? What was your motivation?
All right, thank you very much. So my motivation is basically the fact that we had some challenges during the outbreaks of diseases. You see that sometimes the data you get are not really complete, if I may use that word. Some communities, you don't really have record of either, let me use vaccination for instance. Maybe they don't go to vaccinate, but they have their opinions about the vaccination, and they have their opinion why they are not vaccinating and all that. So they don't want to listen to the government because they do no longer trust the government or trust the system. That's why they are not able to speak. But when they are speaking from the comfort of their homes with their phones, they say their mind. They say how they feel. They condemn the system, or they push a narrative where other people can follow. So we looked at it that, that means people can actually express their feelings in this way. Can we get this data without minding these people? It's not harmful. We just need to get the data from their locations, analyze it, see what they are saying. Now present it to the policymakers and say, see, based on this kind of data, because this is not your regular data, this is not your regular vaccination or death rate or what is it called, or birth rate kind of data or whatever kind of data that the conventional data that we get. With these things, can we get this social media data, analyze it, see what these people are talking, and check if there is a relationship with it to what is happening in reality? Then policymakers can look at this and draw a framework or a plan to be able to address these issues. It becomes easier. I remember during COVID, and a lot of people had their opinion. We know that, and it it was driven by different people, and everybody had their own opinion. And some people had no choice than to use social media to, especially during the lockdown period, they use the social media to express their feelings from the comfort of their home. So even when sometimes some of them even use dummy kind of usernames, they don't want to really use their real names. However, they say something that if you analyze it, it could be useful to the government and to the policymakers, especially the health policymakers, in possibly drawing a framework that can address those issues in that community or in that area or in the city, as the case may be. So that was one of our major motivations to actually look at the to approach it in this direction. And yeah, today here we are.
That's beautiful. Because most of the tweet analysis that is happening is around misinformation. So, but you're saying, let people do what they're doing, let me understand their sentiment. And you're looking at different lat longs to figure out data to help build right policy. There's so much powerful data there and so much powerful work that comes out of that. So why don't you jump in and share your slides? You should be able to do that and walk
Okay.
us through, and let's begin learning on this whole how do you do your magic of value creation from various different data.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen now.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you, Blessing.
You can see my screen.
Yes,
Are you seeing the?
I'm saying harnessing unconventional data.
Yeah, I want to. I don't know if you are seeing the right screen. Let me see.
Yeah, I think there's also a picture view. It shows the next slide. Maybe, yeah, I think you should do the full slide now.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
Better. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. I thank you once again, Sudha, for inviting me, and welcome. I welcome all of you today for this talk. So today I'm going to be talking about what we are doing, using social media to build to, try to use it to inform policy makers and to also use it to get insight from what people talk about, especially during the past pandemic. And this actually can be a kind of a template for anyone or anyone who wants to work in this area, can motivate the younger researchers who want to also go into this kind of research to know that when you don't have data, you can actually, look out for the unconventional data that is not a regular data to be able to, make meaning out of it and support decision making, especially when it comes to health. So my name is Blessing Ogbuokiri, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at York University. Okay, so my work will be tailoring down on the vaccine. I mean, during the whole thing about pandemic and COVID-19. Remember during the COVID-19 time, a lot of information, misinformation, and disinformation were actually flowing around. We had people saying, pushing different narratives. People didn't trust government. Some people wanted to take the vaccine. Some didn't want to take it. They felt like the government wasn't saying the truth, was lying to them. There were a lot of things going on. So this actually came around and people were posting some of these things on social media because they needed to air their views. Some of this, when it gets to people, it gets retweeted if it is a Twitter or if it is on Facebook, people will share it and it spreads. And we know how information spread or move around, especially on social media. Within a twinkling of an eye, whatever thing someone tweets gets to almost every part of the world within just a minute. So we looked at these things. We said, yes, we can actually, focus on this kind of data, get it, analyze it, try to understand what people are saying, using machine learning, and be able to, bring out some insight from it and help the policymakers to be able to draw frameworks that can assist in handling some of the issues that, they are facing based on either vaccination, based on other kind of administering of medication to the community and all that. So, okay, so one major work I'm going to be talking about today is one of our work that we did in South Africa, which is the work that we called public sentiments towards COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy in South Africa. We analyzed data post, and this work has been published in Frontiers in Public Health. So, of course, we know that during the COVID-19 vaccination campaign, just like what I said before, a lot of the discussions and the campaigns were happening on social media, and one of those social media is the Twitter. And we know that Twitter is is one of the most popular platforms. And these discussions that happen on social media, like the Twitter, sometimes lead to a lot of decrease in public confidence. People feel like, oh, they've read that somebody took vaccine or somebody did something, took the medication and the person died. So that narrative could actually be passed, and a lot of people would no longer want to take the vaccine at that time. So we now look at it, of course, like I said earlier, that we can actually generate all those discussions and all those tweets, analyze them, and use them to make predictions within and know what is happening in that community. So we know that some research has actually been done in this area, but not at city level, where we try to know the differences in the opinions from those cities and know bring a framework that government cannot just come to give just a straightforward like one policy for all, but you can actually consider it city by city and see how, depending on the opinions and the variations in those cities, you can handle it. So our aim was to get all these geotagged Twitter posts. When we mean to tag, we mean to, of course, when you post, the tweet actually comes with a particular location that it's coming from. Then that will help us to understand the three major cities that we want to work on in South Africa. These three major cities are Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg. So with this, we used natural language processing approach to collect about 25,000 COVID-related tweets, and this was spanning between January 2021 to August 2021, and we used some special keywords to do this search and collection of tweets, and these keywords are vaccines, vaccination, AstraZeneca, Oxford, that's the vaccines that we are taking in South Africa, which is AstraZeneca, Oxford, AstraZeneca, vaccine to save South Africa, Johnson & Johnson, or Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer. We use that to filter the tweets to what we want. And when we got that, we also used the latent dirichlet allocation, which is more like an unsupervised learning approach for us to use it to build topics around this tweet. Because the whole idea is for us to understand the kind of conversation that goes around, this tweet that we got. And we also try to label these tweets according to sentiment. So because of the size of the tweet, we used a tool called Balanced Aware Dictionary, which is Veda. And Veda basically helps you to label tweets according to their sentiment. However, we also labeled some part of it manually. We randomly selected 10% of the tweet, which is around 2,500, and labeled it manually just to be sure that what Veda labeled, the sentiment is actually somewhat correct. The whole idea is that we know that machines do not know how to or label sarcasm or maybe vernacular properly. So we use that manual label to be able to compare that. And when we try to visualize the entire tweet, we find out that given the word cloud, the word vaccine also was part of the most used word. Okay, so for this work, when we finish that, we try to check the number of COVID cases with relation to the number of tweets in the country, and we found out that there was a correlation between the increase in the number of tweets and vaccine uptake in South Africa at that time. Okay, so another thing we did was to also check the topic intensities. Of course, when we label with beta, it helps us to get the intensity of the words in the topic. So we try to get the intensity of the topics and try to correlate it with the normalized vaccination or normalized total vaccination. First of all, I didn't say earlier that when we generated the topics, there were two major topics that were there. We generated 10 topics, but after the analysis, I mean, the ones that made sense to us were two major ones, which is topic 1 and topic 10. And these topics are vaccine uptake and vaccine supply. So these discussions, we try to get intensity and correlate it with the vaccination uptake. And we got we found out that the intensity of the sentiment score for the two topics actually correlated with the total number of vaccines administered in South Africa. So we also checked that, found out again that the discussion regarding the two topics, showed higher intensity score for neutral sentiment class. That is what we tried to do here, that the sentiment, the intensity score for the neutral sentiment class actually was higher. So apparently a lot of people at that time were really not decided whether they want to take the vaccine or not at that time. Okay, so we also checked correlated the intensity of the discussions of the two topics correlated with the total number of vaccines administered, deaths, new cases, and all that. They also correlated. So it was actually making sense to an extent to show that what actually happens on social media somewhat there might be a relationship with what is happening in reality. So we also checked the sentiment score for the most discussed topic, which is the vaccine uptake at that time. And we found out that it actually differed across the cities. And sentiment for positive, negative, and neutral actually differed respectively across the cities. So for talking about Cape Town, Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. So it tells us again that how people were expressing or discussing these topics actually differed across the cities in South Africa at that time. So discussions, yes, we are up there, but the way people were now, carrying it, the kind of sentiment they were expressing on these discussions were different across the cities. So it's very important again that this can actually help the policymakers to know that the framework or whatever kind of policy they are bringing for a particular city might be different, it might not be the same to be applied in another city. So we concluded by saying in this work that the findings of this research demonstrate that we can actually use geotagged Twitter posts, to effectively analyze sentiments and to know the dynamics based on, towards the community-based infectious diseases like COVID and or other kind of diseases. And the policy implication of this work is that it provides a valuable city-level information to help policy makers in planning and decision making regarding vaccine hesitancy for outbreaks. So this work we published, and another thing I'm going to talk today is another work in this field area. We called it vaccine hesitancy hotspots in Africa. So now we shifted it to 9 African countries we are working on. We did this. The first one was just in South Africa and 3 cities in South Africa. So we moved it to 9 African countries to check the vaccine hesitancy hotspots using the Twitter post. And this work has been published in IEEE computational introduction, IEEE introduction on computational system. So,
Blessing, I have a question. I thought there were 11 languages in South Africa.
oh yes, there are 11
How did
languages.
you pick 9? Why? Who were the other 2 were not included?
Sorry, say that again.
So why did you pick 9 and not the 11?
No, this one is countries, not languages. This work I'm talking about are countries, 9 African countries. So
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right. So we know that just like what I started saying earlier about, we have many social media, many people expressing their feelings on social media, and this, sometimes compromise their confidence, leading to vaccine hesitancy. So we try to see what people discuss in these 9 African countries and see how we can actually get the tweets according to the locations, analyze it, and try to get the sentiment, then map it back to the map, check the clusters of this sentiment where they are coming from, and see the cluster that has most of this sentiment. That would determine how whether it's actually true that that place might be suffering vaccine hesitancy. When we did that, we tried to also check those locations with regards to vaccination uptake at that time. So the map you see here is
all in English. Sorry, was this all in English?
Yes, this is all in English.
Okay.
So the map you see here is the map of African countries that has the combination of expired doses and at-risk expired doses of vaccine. So it means that most of these countries had their vaccines expired or about to expire, and the problem is, why is it so? Okay, so we want to collect data set containing geotagged COVID-19 tweets from 9 African countries using machine learning and approach, and identify and visualize vaccine hesitancy hotspot by clustering labeled tweets using point-based location technique. Okay, so what we did was to collect tweets, from the 9 African countries and use data to label them, then use machine learning classification algorithms to classify them and try to also label them manually. Then we calculate the hotspot based on the location of the labeled tweets using point-based location technique and visualize them on the map. So here we find out that logistic regression actually classified the tweets more than was better, because we tried to visualize the ROC-AUC curve here to find out how well the classification algorithms classified the tweet. And we established here that that the logistic regression actually did better than any other model. So what we now did was to use the point-based approach, to calculate the hotspot based on the location of the classified tweet. So we use color coding to identify the sentiment. We have used green for positive, red for negative, and gray for neutral sentiment. Now, the location with uh, any of these colors, signifies the hotspot for that particular sentiment. So let me use this part for instance, which is Nigeria. We have that this particular place, which is Abuja, has more of green sentiment, and this is actually a community where you have a lot of enlightened or educated people. They showed positive sentiment here. However, for every particular location that you have, um, maybe a dominance of positive sentiment. That does not mean that there are no negative sentiments in that place, or people do not, say something bad or are non-neutral. But it means that that particular location has more people or more traits at that time saying being positive or having positive sentiment in that particular case. So we use this to be able to identify some of these locations. And we try also to check, in our discussion, how the vaccination uptake is doing in this particular place. So the whole idea is that for a policymaker or government official, it becomes easier to know, based on the kind of data that we are using, we're able to, on a glance, see that these locations, look at what they are discussing based on the vaccination that we're doing, and is it really doing well with does it have a relationship, is it correlated with the vaccination? Like if we have a particular location that is not doing well in terms of receiving the vaccine, and this is showing that that location is negative sentiment, then they can draw a framework that they can use to address this particular area to know that there is a challenge, either draw out a a social media plan to be able to pass a positive narrative of the vaccine at that time, to be able to convince or make people at least have faith in the process. So we know that of course social media platform where social media, we know, is a platform where people share or users share their opinions and concerns. So it's very important that we try to be careful and understand that, especially the policymakers, when some narrative are being pushed, they should also find a way to also pass the positive narrative for the people, so that people can actually have faith in them, have faith in the vaccine, have faith in the process, and not feel like there's a problem. So during the pandemic lockdown, social media became a primary medium for users to express their concerns. Of course, a lot of people, did that. And in Africa, vaccine hesitancy was one of the challenges that we faced during the pandemic. And there's always been a lot of times people, don't want to take vaccines, not just because of the pandemic or COVID-19 pandemic, but there are some cases where you see people, they feel like, okay, they prefer their orthodox way of taking medication, or they feel this thing doesn't work, or it will make them sick, especially when they have some people that have complained about the adverse effect of those medications. So, leveraging on social media becomes very important to be able to manage such cases. And we know that the insights we have drawn from this can actually provide information to health policy in planning and managing vaccine hesitancy, especially in Africa. So one of the limitations of this work is that, some of these models that we use for labeling the tweets are, like I said earlier, it's just a machine. Sometimes it does not recognize the sarcasm and some vernacular, so to say, except if you manually label them. And it's not everyone that is on social media or Twitter. So the Twitter data set does not entirely represent the opinion of the whole country. It's just a fraction of the country. So we know that this can actually bring some insight, of course. And there's a research has also proven that this people on social media at a certain age range, which also, it could be a kind of limitation, because does not cut across all age groups. But to an extent, it gives an insight of what is happening, so that policymakers can actually have an idea and possibly draw a plan to work in that direction. Okay, another work in this area that I'm still going to talk today is what we call the impact of Omicron variant in vaccine uptake in South Africa.
Blessing, if you don't mind, can we pause and see whether there are questions, because people are
Okay, all right. I'll stop.
Started out late, people might drop off, so I want to see. I'm always full of questions and I'm enjoying this, but just want to make sure. Are there any questions from the people here on Zoom? I just want to make sure that we have a handful of people invited, and so you get to speak up if you have questions. And I'm very fascinated. This started out with COVID, and an opportunity from there that Dr. Blessing figured out to go look at tweets and other data sources for that. And this can be put in use in multiple different ways too, right? That you can now take this technology that you've built for sentiment analysis, the learning that has come, and you can apply it in so many directions. So I want to see if people have questions. Otherwise, we will continue on. And I see, yes, Suresh.
That's Suresh. I just have one question. I just want to understand the results from the test, right? Blessing, it was a good presentation. The one question I have is the correlation with the positive sentiment means number of COVID cases being less, or is it what are the results? Can you explain it a little bit more clearly to me, please?
Yeah, if I get your question correctly, do you mean the correlation between the positive cases and the vaccine uptake? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So what is the result conclusion? Positive sentiment means that number of COVID cases are less, right? That's what is the conclusion, correct?
No, that's not what it means. So what it means is that what people are saying, this research will actually explain what you're saying very much clearer, but I'm going to answer you. This one that I want to talk about will give more insight on that. So yeah. What we did in the ones I presented is that we wanted to find out what people were saying about this vaccination, about the vaccination, their opinions about it. Because we know that when people take vaccine, when they maybe the thing reacted on their body, or they have been told that someone took it and the person died. There are cases where some cases where you see somebody take it and the thing reacted and the person died. Then this information, especially the people that don't want to take it, will now push the narrative to the extent that it becomes something that will trend at that time. And as it is trending, when we got this tweet, we tried to check to respond to this trend with their own different tweets that have different sentiments. Now, what happens is that they tweet something, they can say, but I took the vaccine and it didn't harm me. That's a positive sentiment, but it doesn't affect the vaccination at that time. Okay, so but most times the negative sentiment is the one that actually correlated with the vaccination uptake. The positive sentiment at this time will relate with the vaccination uptake.
So it is more vaccine hesitancy that you're tracking, not exactly the people who are vaccinated. Essentially, they might be vaccinated. We don't know from that conversation. You're just tracking.
Yes.
So this is so you're tracking people who have been vaccinated and the response of what happens after taking the vaccine, right? That's what you're tracking, correct?
Exactly.
And so when you correlate, if let's say people took a vaccine and they are saying positive about the vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
what is the correlation do you see in that particular area?
Okay, so there are some areas, because there are different areas. There are some areas that the positive sentiment
Mm.
correlates with the vaccination. So it means that for some reasons, it could be that people are happy taking the vaccine.
Yeah.
There are some areas as well the positive sentiment does not. It could also be that no matter how happy they were not able to take the vaccine. And actually, I saw that kind of behavior in this research about Omicron that I want to talk about now. You could see that people were having positive sentiment, but they were not taking the booster shot. They were not. Yes, they feel like maybe my friend is fine, and I don't think I want to take it. Yes, but the vaccine is good, but they won't go and take it. So this sentiment might correlate with the vaccination at that time, but it might not correlate with the vaccination. But the positive sentiment are high, but it was not correlated. So in that particular time, that means the policymakers can actually, draw out a plan, convince people, knowing that yes, they are saying good things about this vaccination, but they are not taking it. The vaccine is expiring in their hands. They get expired or they're about to expire and all that. So the community-based ones, they differ according to communities, actually. They don't have a straightforward kind of behavior. So that is one of the things that we are trying to find out, that some of these communities are different. They don't behave the same way.
Mm.
Blessing, I have a question.
Yes.
Every time when you do sentiment analysis, I mean,
Mhm.
we've had discussions about AI trying to guess emotions of people, and the whole concept of emotions AI is not built on sound science when they say emotions, or whether you're going to shop, whether you have a mental health problem, that we have solutions. There are a lot of startups doing that, and we've done a webinar on emotions AI, but we are very, very skeptical about the science behind it. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes with grouping this sentiment, that somebody is talking about COVID vaccine and maybe they are in pain, but they still believe in the vaccine, right? So there could be mixed messages or bundle of keywords that signal something. Are you relying on the tool that you use for annotation to give you the different sentiments, or did you create a bundle of keywords to define different sentiments? Was that based on some social science, or how did you decide on the sentiments?
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm relying on the tools, but all I did was to validate with some of the social science or psychology works that have been done in this area. So the tool that we used had some picked or a summary of 5 sentiment classes that it works on. There are other ones, and I also mentioned it in one of the works that could also be a limitation, because there are a whole bunch of emotions. So we were focusing on the fear, anger, surprise, happy, and sad. These are 5 basic ones that we focused on. Like I said, there could be disgust, there could be some even there are some models that you see, they will say strong fear or strong disgust. They like classify it in that manner depending on the tool you're using. So data actually classifies 5 different emotional classes from the tree, and that's what we use before. But so what again that I tried to do was to manually label some of these traits to also check if we were able to, the machine actually gave us something, um, you know, good, like it didn't really go off the hook, because you don't want to label something wrongly and use it to classify wrongly. So, and at least to a greater extent, more than 80%, we were getting something reasonable, especially when we manually label that. So we relied on the machine, and given that it has been proven, and there are a lot of works that have been done with the tools. That's why we're able to use it. Yes. And maybe what you said could be area for future work, trying to classify their own sentiment class or emotional class, build it and use, generate words to do that. But I mean, I can do that because I've actually done something like that, but for this work, and that's how Veda works. Actually, it has a bag of words for each of the sentiment class. Then when you tokenize the tweet or the sentence, it picks the words to check if the word is in the bag of words that it created. To check bag of words that represent each of the sentiment class. If they are there, then it picks it and it takes the probability of the words to be able to assign the sentiment intensity score sentiment class. So that's how we did it. I don't know if I answered.
No, that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I continue right now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So this research is basically talking about the impact of Omicron. Yes. So we know that during people were a lot of people were not happy, and that Omicron started in South Africa. It had there were a lot of media hype how much the transmissibility, like it can easily be transmitted very fast than any other variant. So we try to find out what are the emotional behavior of people at around this time, especially before and during the Omicron time. So it actually, we know that it triggered a lot of, this work was actually focused on South Africa. And one major reason that we actually focusing on South Africa most times is that South Africa has a lot of data. They have records. So when you get Twitter data, you can actually validate or try to correlate what you are doing with existing real life data, to be able to check if what you're doing is correct. So you have more of real life data in South Africa than any other African countries.
I think we spoke about this offline, so I wanted to bring this for the purpose of our audience. You are looking at lat long from where the tweet is coming. So you're able to filter out the tweets that are coming from bots. So when we were looking at tweets for election results or related to election topics in US, we had bots that came from outside the country. And so where you're looking at it purely from saying, okay, now these 9 countries, and then you're looking only at those, and you were able to filter out the bots out?
Thank you very much. So when thank you for bringing it to my knowledge. So I considered all that. We considered that tweets might be coming from bots, and there might be tweets coming from organizational accounts and all that, which does not really give us what we wanted. So we tried to remove all those, kind of tweets. That happened during the data cleaning and pre-processing of the tweets. The pre-processing stage, we were able to remove all that to make sure that our data is clean and it's only for unique users. So we focus on unique users, human beings that tweeted, and that's what we work with. Okay, so we know that having emotions. So people were expressing emotions on this change when we had that outbreak, especially during the Omicron variant, and it actually weakens people's confidence before they take the vaccine. So we have now said if we identify some of these behavior and how these emotions were changing before and during the Omicron time, it can actually help to understand the way citizens behave towards vaccination, which can also help us to inform policy makers. So the main thing here is to, try to do is to identify those vaccine Omicron, to get the Omicron tweets, try to classify them, try to understand the relationship in terms of the change and the discussion that happens before and during the Omicron time, and also check the relationship between these changes in the emotions and with respect to the vaccination uptake and time, and we'll compare the changes, and changes before and during the Omicron time, Okay, so what we did here was to, first of all, we collected about 28,000 tweets. We classified it into two, pre-Omicron and during Omicron. So the pre-Omicron tweet, we only had 4,404 tweets, and during Omicron, we had 3,000 plus tweets. And the dates are September 30, 2021 to November 23, 2021. This was during the pre-Omicron period, and during Omicron was November 24 to January 14. We'll try to also to visualize the tweet with respect to time. And we see that we have more tweets within the week of December, within the week of end of November to December, first week of December. The tweet is actually coming from South Africa, all the provinces in South Africa, and the keywords relating to vaccine and Omicron. Okay. So after cleaning the tweet, like I said, we make sure that we are only looking at the unique users. That's the thing that we did to be able to remove duplicate tweets from organizational accounts, tweets from bots. We did all that, and we reduced the tweets to 25,000 plus, and also classified it into pre-Omicron period and during Omicron period. Then we also try to check according to the 9 provinces. There are 9 provinces in South Africa. So we classify the tweets and know the percentages for each of the province. We discovered that Gauteng, which is where you have Johannesburg and Pretoria, KwaZulu-Natal, which is where you have Durban, Mpumalanga, and Western Cape, which is where you have Cape Town, has more tweets than any other province. So then what we did again was to understand what kind of discussions are people having, in general, to know the discussions going on. So we discovered so we discovered 5 topics, and these are the representative keywords of these topics. So these topics, given their representative keyword for topic 0, we believe it's something. Okay, before that, we did what we call the coherence. We tried to perform the coherence analysis to check to understand how semantically acceptable these topics are. We take topics with a higher coherence score and discard topics with lower coherence score. So any topic with at least 0.5 and above, we take it. We normalize it to from 0 to 1. So that's how we got the 4 topics. And when we take that, we also try to check, do what we call Jaccard similarity of the topics. Try to compare 2 topics at a time to check if these topics are the same or they have some changes. Because the whole idea again is to make sure that for every topic, that the topic is standing alone. We don't want to duplicate topics. We don't want topics that are saying the same thing, or maybe their representative keywords are somewhat related. So we find out that we visualize it with this heat map, and found out that now the 5 topics that we selected are actually standing alone. So the diagonal here showing line yellow shows that the topics are the same. So when you see topic 0, being intercepted with topic 0, you see that they are the same, and that is why it's every other part of is not the same because they are actually fluid. And why is it so? We take topics that has lower Jaccard similarity value. When the scores are lower, then it means that those topics are not the same. That's the likelihood that the topics are not the same, or the words in that make that topic are not the same.
Blessing,
Yep.
one question. When
Thank
people are thinking about this as data and running tools and saying, okay, we're pre-processing the data, we've grouped this into different topics, and then they go off into analysis typically. Can you talk a little bit about the Jaccard similarity, how it is done? And
Mhm.
specifically, I want to add one comment here because understanding that two different ways of saying things is the same, but it has to be done by somebody who has that business acumen or the local knowledge. In this case, we
Mhm.
are taking only from English tweets, but still, if people are talking about some keywords that are implying the same group of topics, if somebody is, if it is done by an automated system which absolutely does not have any knowledge of the local population or the
Mhm.
way they speak, the same tweet that you're doing for nine South African countries, now if you go do this with Latin American countries, even if it's same English tweets, it's going to be different. So explain, help us understand what is Jaccard similarity, how it is done, and then did you have to bring your local knowledge to kind of make sure this bucket of topics are similar, to kind of categorize them? Was that manual work?
Well, there was no manual work because of the size of the work. You know that LDA is an unsupervised learning approach where you just put the data, it does the classification by itself because it depends on the patterns of how the words are arranged. That's how classify them into different documents. So for the for the Jaccard similarity, what Jaccard similarity does is that each of these topics like this, you see they have different words. So what it does is to intercept, let's say topic 0 and topic 1 to check the words that represent this particular topic and see how it checks the probability of how much related these words in these two topics are. If they are very closely related, it gives it a score. What it means is that if I repeat, let's say I have let me use topic 1 and topic 2. I have booster here, I have relieved here, I have all these things in this same topic, and possibly just with the slight changes. It will show me, yes, they might have a slight change based on that, but it will, when it intercepts it, it gives it a probability, it gets the probability of the terms of occurrence of the words, then it gives it a score. And that score is what determines how closely related the topics are. So what we did here was to, of course, you see that it's from 0 to 1. So if the topic is the same, or the words that represent that document or topic is the same, then it becomes 1. Like if you have all the same words in two different documents, it becomes 1. So it shows that those two topics are the same. Just like when you're doing intersection. So that is what happened here, and that is what we try to visualize here, not just to talk about it. There could be some approach, trying to approach it with, using local languages. Maybe if you have trained local language and try to use LDA on it, then that can actually work and can also help you to classify the topic. Because at this time, the Jaccard similarity does not understand it does not understand English, does not understand any language. All it checks is the content. If they are the same, then it can give the probability of such similarity. So that's what happens, and that's how we were able to get only 4 topics. And now you know that when a topic is generated, there are tweets that form those topics. The different tweets that people tweet. So we try to check for each of the topic. We check how many tweets that contains those words, these words that carry this, that form this topic. We also have topic 0 that has opinion about of the Omicron variation, and it was up to 35% of the tweets. For topic 1, we saw that it was 4% of the tweets, and for topic 2, we saw that it was 10% of the tweets, and all down to topic 4, which is opinion about government response to Omicron, which is about 18% of the tweets. Then we also plotted the number of tweets with respect to time. So the whole idea is that we want to understand, yes, these discussions are happening as they are coming in and the topics are being discussed. At what point did we have more of people or more of the tweets coming in? So we find out that most of the discussions that also happened, we had a peak, especially during the week of November and end of November and December, which confirms or validates the number of tweets that we have as per when the tweets about Omicron were coming in much more. So most possibly the discussions started coming more. Because if you check here, this is the discussion about Omicron. That is the highest topic discussed at this time. So it's actually correlated with what we're talking about. Now, we try to do the emotion analysis because now, after doing the topic modeling, we also try to do emotion analysis to understand the emotions that are being discussed. I mean, the emotions that are being expressed on this tweet. People say something about the word, the thing the tweet can actually carries emotions on them. Okay, so looking at this, we see that we have for every tweet, what we do first is to tokenize it, then go check if the words are in the emotional list. If we find the word in the emotional list, we'll select the emotional the emotion class and then give it a score. That is give it a probability of occurrence. Then the intensity is calculated using this approach, intensity of every particular emotion class. So we manually labeled the tweet as well in terms of their emotion. So we didn't want to just rely on what the pre-trained model is giving us. We randomly selected 530 tweets, which is 10% of the tweet, and label them equally to be able to build a model that can help us classify this tweet. So this is a sample tweet that we labeled manually, and we said that just heard about another breaking case of Omicron in Zanzibar. Are people ever going to learn to follow guidelines? So because of this, we labeled it as anger. Just heard about the Omicron variant spreading in Joburg, and I am really scared for my family's safety. And I believe we also labeled this as fear, given the way the tweet came. So with this, we were able to create a model with these machine learning algorithms, and we use it also we also use this model to also check the text emotion labeled tweets in it, and we're able to get some good performance. However, there were some little changes in the accuracy, which is not that much. Logistic regression also performed better in all of them. We saw that, and you can see in the classification that we did that logistic regression performed better both in the hand labeled tweet and in the text emotion tweet. So with this, we also find out that text emotion pretend model is not that really performed, averagely okay in terms of labeling the tweet. So we plotted the total emotional intensity with respect to time for both before and during Omicron. This is before Omicron and this is during Omicron. Now, in order to understand the impact of the Omicron before and during impact of sorry, I can't see this properly. Okay, so we want to understand the impact of the emotional intensities before and during Omicron. That's basically what we want. So we formulated a hypothesis here. We say that there is no association between emotional intensities and vaccination, and there is an association between emotional intensities and vaccination. So we did it for the 9 provinces in South Africa, and we only found out that there are only 2 provinces. This is before Omicron actually. Excuse me. So we discovered that Mpumalanga, which is a province, and Western Cape showed a correlation. This is we are getting the impact of the emotional changes against vaccination this time. So we did grander causality tests to assess the relationship between the emotional intensities and vaccination. Because if you get the relationship between the total emotional intensities, then we need to find out which of the emotions are more pronounced or having much effect in that particular location. So that's what we did here. We tried to check which of the emotions, and with our analysis, we found out that anger and okay, this is for Mpumalanga. Anger was actually, was showing a strong relationship with the vaccine, and for the Western Cape, we discovered that fear and fear and anger actually showed, a very close relationship, while other provinces does not show any kind of association or relationship with the vaccination. Right. Okay. So another thing we did was to check the correlation or relationship between the number of tweets and the increase in vaccination within the provinces. How we got the increase in vaccination is the vaccination before and the vaccination after. Then we'll check the difference. Then that's how we got the increase in vaccination. And we saw that with our tweets, there were actually a relationship or kind of an association between the number of tweets and increase in vaccination in all the provinces except for Northern Cape, which is this one. Except for Northern Cape. Northern Cape did not show any kind of relationship or association with the daily tweets. So during the Omicron time, provinces like Cape Town, like Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Limpopo, and Northwest showed an association between the vaccination and emotional intensity. So we tried to also find out which of the emotions during that actually were much influential to this. For Eastern Cape, we discovered that sadness, anger, surprise, and fear were actually very much prominent. Then for Gauteng is anger, surprise, and fear. We're also showing dominance. Then for Limpopo, we have sadness, we have fear. I think one thing again is that most of them that fear is actually very dominant in all of them. Anger is also there. So apparently people are scared of the variant, Omicron variant that came. But however, other provinces did not show any kind of association or relationship, especially during the Omicron. So it's possible that they didn't care about the vaccine, their discussions, they didn't care much about it at that time. So one other thing I did was to test for an association between the pre-Omicron and during Omicron emotions and check if there is a relationship. So that I want to know if the standard factors affecting these emotions are the same. We did it for all the provinces, and we find out that it actually varied across provinces. Most especially, let me use Gauteng, which is which is this. We find out that we have in Gauteng we have sadness. We also have fear. No, sadness actually to have a very strong association, showing that there is an association between emotional intensity before and during Omicron. That could be the fact that maybe COVID-19 could be the external factor that is actually affecting the emotional change at that time. So in general, the White Mayu test that we did for this shows that various factors were actually affecting the emotional changes in the pre and during Omicron time. So we concluded by saying that this result shows that the social media data can actually be used to complement existing data and predict the dynamics of citizens' emotional behavior towards vaccination, during an outbreak. And we know that the policy implication is that this result can actually also inform health policy in planning, controlling, and managing provinces that are identified with vaccine hesitancy. And we can use this research, replicate it in other areas of further studies. So the last thing I'm going to talk today, I don't know if there is any question for this before I move to the next one.
No, I think it's fine. We just have to wrap up quickly because we are kind of
okay. So I'm wrapping up with this work that we published as a book chapter in the second International Conference on Intelligence Systems and Applications held in December last year. This is supposed to be 2022, actually, not 2023. Anyways, excuse me. So this is can post-vaccination sentiment affect the acceptance of booster jab? So we also try to check, is it possible that people take the vaccine first jab and they don't want to take the second jab, or take the second jab, which is basically for vaccines that has 2 doses, and they are not able to take the booster jab? I had cases of that where, in some communities, people say, I've taken this thing first and second. Why am I taking the booster? Some say, I don't want to, I take the first one, I don't want to take the booster again. And they were posting this and became a narrative. And we know that it's more time when people start hearing this, and some people also said, I took the first and second jab, it got me sick, I don't want to take the booster jab. So all these things actually, formed a lot of sentiment, and we want to know if this can actually, make people not take the vaccine. I'm going to be a little bit fast. So we consider 9 African countries, and we picked, these actually represent the first jab, countries with the first jab. These also countries that have taken the second jab, and these countries that have taken the booster jab. The 9 African countries are Botswana, Cameroon, Eswatini, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. And we use some keywords that relate to booster. And this also shows that the most used word in the data that we have is actually booster shot. Okay, so we discovered from our result that the number of booster-related tweets, significantly correlated with the increase in booster shot, and the increase in booster tweets also correlate. Booster tweets in intensity also showed some positive correlation with the increase in booster shot. It means that what actually happens after when someone has taken the vaccine, the sentiment could actually rub off on the vaccination uptake. We also checked for the negative tweet because we labeled the tweet accordingly. So we found also that the increase in the negative tweet or intensity is negatively correlated with the increase in booster shot. This also shows the fact that negative intensities, or what people say, also can actually affect when it is wrongly presented. We did topic modeling, try to understand what people were saying. We found out that the discussions were more on booster efficacy, booster types for Omicron, booster uptake, and vaccine uptake. And these tweets were coming from different countries. As you can see, we have the tweets with different sentiments are coming from different countries. Okay, so what we did here was to check the topic discussion by countries, and we found out that a lot of these countries were actually saying positive things about the booster. However, it does not rub off with the booster uptake. That's why I put here for Botswana, we have about 61.7% of the countries that the people that have taken the vaccine. However, the people, only 16% at the time of this research took the booster shot. But they were saying, when you check the topic that talked about booster efficacy, which is topic 1, you see that it has more positive sentiment. If you check for Nigeria, about only 30% took the vaccine, but the booster was only 0.4. And when you talk about the booster type for Omicron, which is topic 2, it has more positive sentiment. You check the booster efficacy topic, which is topic 1, it has more positive sentiment. And that is how most of them are. So we discovered that about, checking it in general, about 45.5% of the tweets are likely to carry positive sentiment about the Omicron. That's the poster. It's only Rwanda that has fully vaccinated about 77% and boosted about 42% in their country, but they didn't have much of the Twitter data that we could actually use to analyze this. On the other hand, Cameroon and Swatini showed 0% booster uptake, meaning that they didn't have much people that have taken, they didn't have anybody that have taken the booster shot. So this could be that there was no availability of vaccine, or it could be that people, they need a lot of talking, they need to pass the positive drive to allow people to take the boosters. At that time, a lot of things, a lot of factors could actually be affecting this. So our findings here is that we have about, excuse me, we have about 45% chance of discussing these topics to carry positive sentiment. Why they carry this positive sentiment about towards vaccination uptake, which is the topic 3, the rate of booster vaccine uptake is still relatively low across different countries. So this could be unavailability of vaccine, or fear of the unknown. Nobody knows, and it's cause for investigation. And it's also positive. It is possible that citizens' attitude expressed on social media, can actually have an impact on the positive or negative impact on the vaccine in real life. And this study definitely will be useful to policymakers. And our concluding remark is that post-vaccination sentiment can play a role in increasing acceptance of booster. If we feel positive about a particular vaccine, we can talk about it, and people will recommend it, and people will take it. And so if we're publicized, any kind of vaccine, if it is well publicized, people can also take it, especially the positive effect of it. And it's also important for individuals factors such as personal belief, access to information, and existing health condition also play a role in vaccination acceptance. So the limitations are the same thing that I've said before, about the tweets and the kind of age range that are basically on Twitter, and the kind of tools that we use to analyze the tweets. So our study has demonstrated that unconventional data from social media can actually be a reliable alternative, and we can also use it to build kind of model that we want. We're actually working on earlier warning systems. We want to see how we can actually use this kind of unconventional data to predict what will happen next. So we are working on looking at how we can use unconventional data to build earlier warning systems in this regard. I would like to thank everyone for your time, and I missed the Global South in AI logo here. Please pardon me with that. And thank you very much.
No problem. So this is amazing. Thank you so much. So you said 18% of the population were tweeting, and that is the data set that you could collect. But they did influence. We could see the correlation with the COVID hesitancy or the acceptance spike, that there was a direct correlation. At least they were influencing the sentiment of the others who were quiet, not coming and tweeting, but it was affecting the general sentiment of the population very, at least like what the data showed. But I have a question. One of the things, do you want to get out of the share? I wanted to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So one of the things we always think about in Global South in AI is language models are predominantly built in English. And
Mm.
it works for situations where it makes sense, where, like sentiment of the population or specific use cases that is not represented in how we think about it from outside specific countries, right? When we build applications based on that. So I wonder, when you have English speaking tweets that were collected and it did influence the population, uh, if it was, were there like language, are there, is it possible to tweet in other languages? Like I know in Indian languages, we have a way, I mean, we have like, I've seen in Indian languages called English and Tanglish, which is like the local language but written using Latin script, like using English alphabets. And I know Singapore has that. There is a version of that like that in Brazil, where they speak in their language, their words are their language, but what you see is English alphabets. Do you have something like that in any of the African languages?
Yeah. Is it like official? In Nigeria, there's what we call pidgin English.
Yeah.
Pidgin English. Pidgin English is more like a broken kind of English. So we can say, in English, they say, let us go. Like if you want to go to somewhere, can say, can we go here or let us go? But if it is pidgin English, they will say, make we they go. Make we they go. You see, English words, but does not, it does not really translate to, what you know as English, except if you have to like think deeply to understand that. In South Africa, they have something similar, but their own is not pidgin English. Their own is their, most times it's their native language, which when they are typing, they start with English, they might just conclude it with that their native language. So I don't know if it is what you're talking about.
Yes. So
Yeah.
in it might be there in many parts of the world, but when you have a substantial number, then it evolves in it to its own language. Like we had Muskan Mahajan come and present her paper from from last year, uh,
Mm,
and she's building something called Bellabot for a translation between English and English. And English is Hindi speakers
mm,
who are typing Hindi. So
mm,
it's not like what you were saying, where there are English words mixed. English words might be mixed, but the typing is happening. So when you see the chat, or if you
mm,
have a English understanding LLM, it will not understand anything, right? It will see English words, but it will not fit any of the dictionary words that it knows. But it is spoken by, I believe she said, like 272 million people who
wow.
speak English. That
Mm,
means you have to cater to them, right? They are going to continue. And that's how language evolved, right? If you zoom out and look at it with an anthropological lens,
mm,
language evolved in camps when two different groups of people speaking different languages came together. It branched out and third language evolved. That's the root of, linguists would know this better than me. So there is a school of thought that this is a language by itself, treat it as a language by itself. But coming to the AI world, we cannot ignore it, because then we are ignoring the needs of 272 million people. So
mm,
I'm just curious, when it's easy and it's great that you have a huge English speaking population, but that's not going to cater to everybody, right? There's
mm,
going to be sentiment of people. So I'm just curious, is there, if you had the capability to pick up the local languages
mm.
and then do the tweet,
The same thing. So yes.
do you
So
think the
we
results would be different? Would you be representing a different segment of the population that was not included?
Oh yeah. So thank you very much for that. So like I said earlier, there's a work. The work is on ASIV. Recently, it has not yet been published, that we did in our team in South Africa. Let me see if I can get that work and show you. So the work is basically we use manually labeled all the tweets to accommodate these vernacular, all these kind of words that were spoken in South African language. So when we do that, when we now want to build, there's a second work that we did. We now use the same model to classify another tweet that has such kind of words. Um, so this work, I wasn't the one that led it though, but we did something like that. I think let me see if I have it here. If I don't have it, then it's on Asif. I may just look for the link and send to you. And we already have something like that. Again, part of the study is just to, continue to build, work on different languages, try to train models that can accommodate all the, different, all the other different languages, so that we can, accommodate, them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me. Let me just share my screen and show you quickly what I'm
So
talking
you
about.
found it. Awesome.
So this work is on ASIF. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So we call this detecting the presence of COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy from South African tweets that are using machine learning. You could see my name here. You could also see Bruce's name here, who is our boss.
Yes, I see Bruce. I see Dr. Jude.
Yes. So,
Jude King, yeah.
so this work is also actually more like what I'm doing, but this one, it was manually labeled, and we considered those South African languages in this work. And the model was built as a file. So the model was used to also do another project. That one is still under process. So we use that same model to classify. We didn't build a new model with the data that we got. We just use it to classify the tweets, because the tweets here has been labeled based on both South African language, any kind of South African language, but that took us a lot of time to do that. You know that building language models sometimes is time intensive. Like
Yes.
you need to employ people who go to those local communities, get their languages and label it accordingly. If you label it, then you're fine. You can now be able to
Yeah.
train the model and reuse it, you know. That's one of the challenges I can tell you I'm facing, because you know how short postdoc is. You don't have to, be on one project and 1 year ends. You need to do anything you can do to be fast with whatever thing you're doing. However, I would like to take that approach to try to, especially in Nigerian languages, lay hands on those ones, employ people that start annotating these tweets or words, not just tweets and sentences, to be able to build language models. But yes, I'd like to take it up in that direction.
That is amazing. In fact, I think that is what Landfrica is doing, right? They're trying to create the data set. Can I share and show that for a second?
Okay.
Because landfrica.com
Okay.
is
Okay. I think I've seen them before.
were you able to build on Landfrica records? Are you contributing to that with your work? Because I think what they're doing is fascinating, and they have for various different languages. You can pick a language that you're
Oh,
looking at.
wow. Yeah, it's Kosa. That's South African language.
Yes, they have a lot of South African languages in here. You were talking about
Zulu as well. Oh, wow.
then it will say, and you can contribute to it, or you can, benefit from it. The whole idea is a community builds it. So you might be able to use some of their data set or transliteration. So you can see, some of the languages you mentioned.
Oh, see, my language, Igbo is there. Igbo.
Yes.
This is good.
Yeah.
I think I have to check.
Yeah.
Can you send me the link?
Yeah, it is called landfrica.com. And in
Okay.
there, if you go to uh, browse records, I will put this on LinkedIn for those of you
Okay.
watching this.
Okay.
I've done
Okay.
a screen grab of our presentation today and shared my learning on LinkedIn, where this was streaming, where this is still streaming. But I will also come and put this link here. So for those of you working on African languages and think that you don't have enough data set, in fact, I believe they also have transliterations and models, and they have a huge open source contribution that they are doing. So this is fascinating. And what you were you talking about this one?
Yes. Oh, wow. They've done a lot of work here.
Yes, it's amazing. I mean, I think I went to Masakane Slack, and from there I found Chris and I found his work here. It's just amazing. I mean, it's like a whole world out there, and they're just creating stuff, and so it's fascinating. Okay, so before I let you go, I just want to share. I know you're part of many different groups, but I wanted to share the post that you shared on. Uh, do you want to do that on the call for Black in AI?
You mean the poster I, yeah, wait, let me, let's hold on for a minute.
Yeah, I have shared it for those of you watching this. I have shared the link also. Or you can tell us about the call from Black in AI. What is
Okay.
expected? What is the
So
deadline? How can
thank you.
someone
Thank
participate?
you
Yeah.
very much. So the Black in AI is a community where we have it's open for Black people, those who identify as Black, to submit their, give them that presence. Actually, Black in AI is one of the groups that contributed in exposing me to some of the things that I'm doing today. I remember, I didn't know about NeurIPS before until in 2017. It was through Black in AI that I came to NeurIPS, and 2018, 2018 and 2019, I came to NeurIPS and was in Canada here, and coming from Africa, a lot of top people in the area in AI, in machine learning, in deep learning. You see people that you've been reading their work, you're meeting them, meeting meeting companies that are in this area. So it gave me a lot of exposure. And I encourage anyone that is in this field to really try to register. And now we have Global South in AI that is also part of the workshop in Knowledge. So it's an opportunity for you to submit your work at the abstract. And it's very simple. Submit your two-page, anything you're doing, try to summarize it to two-page, but make sure you spotlight the things that can sell the work. Submit it to the group. And I think the deadline is on the 18th of August for Black in AI. I don't remember the deadline for Global South in
I'm
AI.
going to, I'm going to show the Global South in AI because this year we've made it super simple. So I'm trying to see whether I can find the Black in AI.
So,
Okay, I did make the post here. Just give me 1 second. I did
mhm.
make the post here on LinkedIn where we are chatting. So where people are watching this, they should be able to take that. Just give me 1 second. I've done like 11 or 10 posts summarizing. And yeah, you don't do this for everything. Some events I sit and then I get very excited, and this is kind of my notes taking and I share with the world. So I did that. So let me show the Black in AI poster that you shared with me. I'm going to share the screen because I find sometimes seeing things visually would be more
Oh
helpful,
yeah, that's it.
you know. So this is where the video is streaming, and if you're watching it, this will pop up for you. And
Yes.
Black in AI already exists as a group on LinkedIn if you just want to follow. So if you're working on Black in, if you qualify for this, and if you can, if you're working on any kind of paper, and I didn't realize it is only a 2-page summary that you're asking for. I think everybody is in Masakane is going to qualify for this. So you're going to have tons of submissions. And there's also a site blackinai.com/conferences So you can do that. And they also have a QR code. It's very nicely done. August 18th is the deadline.
And
So,
we give travel allowance and accommodation. So
oh
it's a
wow, how many people do you pick? How many people get to present? And then so you're
if,
funding.
if Black in AI picks 50 people for the conference, they will sponsor all of them for they will pay their flight and they will pay their accommodation for the conference. And they will register them as well.
Okay,
Mm.
that's amazing. Okay, Global South in AI is a much newer group. So
I know, I know.
we started out, Susanna Raj and I started this last year, and
Mm-hmm.
our focus is language AI, right? So we want to find people who are working in different languages around the globe. You could be from Asia, you could be from African continent, you could be from Latin America, or you could be working on an indigenous language in US or somewhere else in Australia. It doesn't matter, right? If it is one of the languages that is not mainstream, that you see as 7 or 8 languages in language AI today, and if you see your language is not represented well and you would like to do something about it, this is your thing. What we did last year was a call for paper and a double blind peer review. It was very intensive. What we want to do this time is we just want people to come make a submission. So 250-word submission on generative AI. Is it being used in your country? Is it used in your language? Do you like it? Here's an application. Or this is a harmful application or harmful use or harmful outcome because of the bias in it. That's the second category. Or you can say, I see, like you were saying, we could use, we could look at vaccine hesitancy. We could look, last year there was a paper on Kenyan election from looking at tweets, or the English to English Bella bot I was giving you as an example. There's one model on sarcasm in Spanish. So it's like, it's a whole gamut of things that we will not think about it in Silicon Valley when we are building tech. We are thinking about weather, we are thinking about huge data set, and our applications are not what the local population needs and is working on. So it's simple. You make a submission, 250 words, on how generative AI is used or should be used or should not be used, one of those three categories. And then what we made it easy is we don't want you to write a full paper, because people who have this knowledge might not have the resources. There are low resource languages, they won't be able to build a model. We'll help you get there if that's what you want to as a community. But for the purpose of coming to NeurIPS, all we want is you can build a poster, AI poster, and we'll guide you on the process. Or you could have a demo, you could have some audio, or you could have an art exhibit. You could express it however you want. We just want to see that output. We are going to bring you to NeurIPS to do that. And the submission for this is August 30th. But we found that people want to talk and say, is this something, because you're just thinking this is being used this way, or it could be used this way, right? So one example, Yine Yenki from South Sudan had published a paper about Bari language, and Bari language is one of the languages which does not have enough data preserved, and so they don't have it available in many of the in any of the language done by any of the tech companies. And so they did a poster on how to get started to build a data set for it last year. And this year, I'm just saying, you don't even have to think about it. Think about what would be the application of it. When I started talking about it, I found that Bari language is used by refugee women in Coco camp in Rwanda. So if somehow magically we could produce some kind of AI to do a chat with them, that would really help them get information. It is as simple as that. That is not something that I can even visualize sitting here in Silicon Valley, or you cannot even imagine sitting there in Toronto. So I want to hear from people. So that's what we're doing with Global South Call. And make a 250-word submission. If you don't want to make a submission, if you're thinking about it, the globalsouthinai.org is the site. But we've also created a form, so you could come in and enter your email and come and have a conversation with us and say, does this make sense? Or find a mentor from like Blessing from last year who has worked on this, who will be able to guide you on the process. So that's the piece we are working on. So there's a Black in AI call August 18th, 2-page summary, right? And Global South in AI call by August 30th, and you can talk to us, because it's the community that actually helps moves these things forward. Awesome. Can people follow up with you? You had your email and stuff in the last slide. I saw that. Um,
Yes.
okay. So just wanted to make sure that you're doing so many things, part of so many different organizations. Before we wrap up, can you just tell me about this Africa Canada Artificial Intelligence Innovation Consortium? What's a big word? And I saw some paper about some transformer on gender equality or something related to that. Tell us, what do they do? What do you do?
All right. So thank you very much. So this is actually where I am. We call it ACADEC for short, which is African Canada Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Consortium. We are we work with 9 African countries for now, and it's just about just like what you're saying, looking at global South and local communities, trying to find out how we can profile solution with locally relevant data to inform policy, especially when it comes to health. We're using machine learning, AI in general to assess to profile solution to that. And they are the one I'm working for when it comes to my postdoc. And African academic has actually given birth to AI for PEP. AI for PEP is basically now looking at a broader space where we have AI for PEP network is looking at where we have the global south in at large, where we are now looking at the Middle East, we're looking at Africa, Middle East, the Caribbean, yeah, and South America. We have other people. We have all these. Where we created nodes. We have different research groups that we're working with, and what we're basically doing is now looking at lessons learned, epidemic and pandemic preparedness, and or how we can use AI to provide solution in these areas. Language models is part of it, but we're looking at how we can use locally relevant data. Decolonizing research. We no longer try to use what the model that was built in America with the American data to solve African problem or to solve Middle East problem or Asia problem. We want to use the data gotten from Asia or the data gotten from the Caribbean, use it to build models that can solve their own problem. So that's what, in a nutshell, what we're doing.
That is amazing. That is so aligned with what we are thinking in Global South and AI. So I'm going to follow up offline to see, to explore some synergies there. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. And for all of you hanging around watching this, I just want to say thank you. Feel free to add questions and comments. And I have a request for Dr. Blessing to come back, look at the LinkedIn. I tagged him multiple times, so I'm hoping that will pop up notifications anytime that you send a question there in the next couple days, because this usually we embed this. I would share this at my live stream Sudha Live on Friday a little bit. I'll show a little snippet of our conversation, and then we will embed this whole video back in my newsletter that goes out on Monday. So if you are able to just watch that stream and reply to questions, we'll appreciate that. That's how we usually keep our community wakes up, comes back, and other than the people who have been able to join the Zoom here, that's where bulk of us are having a conversation. So I'll appreciate that. So this has been a fascinating conversation. I had a struggle on what do I call this topic, because you bring so much knowledge, and I have students from my Stanford autonomous vehicle course who are very fascinated about value creation from data. So I've done courses on just value creation from data online at Business School of AI. And I see so many parallels, right? In the way you collect the data, pre-process the data, the tools you use, the human augmentation that you do, and the inference you arrive at, and then you take this to a whole, like you said, this can be used as a template for various things. And I love the whole focus on 9 countries. I hope it expands to 90 countries and you do more good work. So I'm here to cheer for you. I'll follow up offline and see how we can collaborate on the Africa, Canada, artificial intelligence and data Innovation Consortium. That's a mouthful. I got that. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Blessing, and best wishes for your continued research and contribution to the many communities you're involved. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So next week
Thank
at Weekly Bed, thank you everybody who's been hanging around and contributing. I appreciate that. So for those of you who were not on the YouTube or who were not here on Zoom, the way you got onto the Zoom, the handful of people got invited, is we have a special link bit.ly/weeklywed registration, and we have like maximum 10 people who are here who get to have a conversation and chat. And obviously you'll get recorded or if you speak up, so we are kind of sensitive to that. And then we are streaming here on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you just want to follow Business School of AI on LinkedIn or my YouTube, then you can just watch a stream too. So, but I'm a big believer of, you know, having conversations across multiple dimensionality of how we identify ourselves, how we think about our worlds and our problems. It makes us smarter. And so I'm thankful to all of you who are part of this community to do that. We've been doing this series on generative AI. So next week, we are going to have Robert Schwenker, who's an expert on prompt engineering, who is going to come, and he's going to do a webinar and he's going to do a hands-on exercise. So I'm happy to expand the number of people who will be on Zoom so that you can participate in the hands-on exercise with Robert. If that is of interest, I would be sharing the registration link. I think it is bit.ly/weeklywed. Registration will also work, but I will also try and see whether I can explicitly share this on LinkedIn and get some of you on a first come first serve basis. We will just get, so if you're signing up on Zoom, you know, you should mean well to attend, because then you'll be taking away spot from somebody else. So I think we'll expand that to 20 people who will be able to join the Zoom. Robert has been doing a study group with some of my students to build out a whole curriculum, to build out a course on prompt engineering, but he's going to do a webinar here at Weekly Wed, live hands-on webinar on prompt engineering with variety of different generative AI tools. And I've requested him, can we focus on language, because generative AI can generate all kinds of things. So can we focus on generative AI that generates language and not the image version of it? So with that, I'm going to wrap up. And Pariya Sarin, thank you so much for all your hard work in organizing Weekly Wed. And Sneha Jadhav, our usual host, will be back. So I get to sit in the back seat and enjoy this upcoming lessons of next week's and Weekly Wed. Thank you, everybody. And see you all on Friday at Sudha Live, or again next week at Weekly Wed. Bye. I'm going to stop.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.